Well, good morning, good afternoon, anybody that may listen. I wanted to put up a live stream, see if hold it. Whoop, we would have had feedback. Not my intent. Not my intent. Carl Ferguson is alive and well. Are you still chasing that chick on the chat room there? Good old Carl. I just wanted to do a brief summary of what's happening with all of these seemingly unconnected, insane moves by the current administration in the White House. Um, I've always been a definite person in wonder of what's going on globally, and it's often misunderstood by most, if not all of us. So I wanted to do a little summation of my thoughts of what I've been observing since this man was elected, and collect them and put them here. That's it, Beach Babe 0614. That's your woman there, Kyle. I don't suspect there'll be that many people in here. Most of the people that are connected to this particular stream are true crime aficionados that are still hung up on the Koberger case. Oh, man. Anyway, so let me just make a quick summation so you people could see the order in which things took place. And what's taking place is a global reorganization of world power. And I think most Americans are just, it's oil, it's drugs, there's truth to that. But not the kind of truth that I think people are used to understanding it by. So let's start out with the first big grievance Trump had. And his big first grievance is Greenland, right? Followed closely in second place by the Panama Canal, and in third place, Venezuela. Okay? And then in fourth place, as you're witnessing now, Iran. But there's four more places you're not paying attention to. One of them, there's many more than four, but one of them is Australia. And another of them are the world's three most heavily traveled choke points in the world's oceans, which now contain a United States carrier, carrier group, carrier strike force at all three of these choke points. There's also a smaller carrier down in the Caribbean by Venezuela, and that's to protect the Panama Canal as well as drug interdiction. But what I think a lot of people are missing is they don't understand, because it's never really been a topic for most of us, how world commerce moves and who controls the movement of this commerce. And although as Americans, we've always suspected it was us because we're the policemen of the world, that has been actually false. It's a false narrative, and in plain sight could have been witnessed by any of us had we actually looked. And if we looked as Trump did, then you would have found America really in a bad place. Really in a bad place. So let's go up to Greenland. Why is Greenland important? Greenland is important because, yes, ice is melting. And yes, that means travel or passage through that area, shortening distances between many major nations for trade and military movements, is now more accessible in Greenland. In addition to that, Greenland does contain the rare earth minerals that the entire world depends on to make everything that makes your life, especially when it comes to your electronics. Electronics that are so crucial that this country can't survive without them. And what you're witnessing happening in Iran is a great example of what that means. Without access to these minerals, and then the refinement of these minerals, America could never do what it's doing in Iran. Wouldn't have been able to do what it did to Maduro. So just keep in mind that you're going to see what I explained to you is going to make much more sense when you see the whole picture, because every single one of these dots are connected and every one of them serve a purpose. And to make it short, the purpose is twofold. The purpose is to put China in check, and surprisingly for most of us, Western Europeans in check. And so let's go forward, follow. So Trump makes this big beef about Greenland. Meanwhile, before the Greenland beef is even on the counter to be discussed and have coffee over, he's down there in Panama. Why? Well, because the Chinese have moved into the Panama region, as well as many regions in South America. You know, you've heard over and over again, the Chinese are the ones that make the meth. Well, no one's ever told you that meth was being manufactured in China itself, right? And so you have China spread throughout South America. China was building up Maduro's oil infrastructure. China had big corporations, quote unquote, at each end of the Panama Canal, to which would have given them the power to shut that canal down, which would have prevented American free movement across the seas, including our warships. So what did Trump do? He went down and he took the Panama Canal back, not by force, but by negotiation with the government there, and kicked China out on its fucking yellow little ass. See ya. You don't have control of that Panama Canal, and you never will. Next, he went to Venezuela and pulled the leader out that was cooperating with the Chinese regime, whom he was selling sanctioned oil, not sanctioned by America, but sanctioned by the United Nations. And they were selling it in ghost fleets to the Chinese at undervalued fucking prices. So where you're paying 60 or 70 a barrel, China might have been paying 20. And Trump ended that with a quickness. That's done, over. And let's be clear, Trump isn't playing this forever war bullshit like all these other previous European-controlled conflicts. Something most Americans probably can't even wrap your head around, to think that the Iran war, the Afghanistan war, were European conflicts. Because you think the last European conflict was World War II. And that's just not accurate. We've been the policemen of the world, and we've been portrayed as the leader of the world, but we've been playing on a game board that was designed by the European elites. Hundreds and hundreds of years they've used this playboard. And where they could not occupy and maintain a colony, they were smart enough to grab the banking business and the fucking ship movements across the high seas. Most of your ships are insured by Lloyd's of London. And I'll explain that as I move forward and get to the Middle East. The other day, there was a meeting between Trump, not long ago, I don't know if it was the other day, but not long ago, there was a meeting between the Trump administration and the leader of Australia. And in that meeting, the leader of Australia explained to the world what the problem is. And I'm going to sum that problem up for you real simply. For hundreds of years, decades at the very least, nations that once were under the British Crown are still being controlled by the British Crown, in that their resources can travel the high seas as a raw product, as a raw ore, as unrefined product. These nations that are under the British control financially and through the control of the shipping lanes were prevented from refining and marketing the products that particular ore would result in. And in Australia's case, they provide 52% of the world's lithium, but they don't refine their own lithium. They send it to European nations or other places that are instructed by Europe to get it refined. And lately it's been China has come in and taken that load away from the Europeans. And China's been refining the lithium and then selling the batteries back to Australia for 10 times the value of what they got for their lithium when they sent it to China. And this is the process under which the Europeans have controlled global trade and the global banking system. And this is the exact target of the Trump administration. It's to break the back of the European control that none of us even really realized existed, including myself. In spite of being told by many people year after year that it's the Britons, it's the Brits, it's the Brits, it's the Europeans, and I just thought, that's just like Heidi said, that's crazy. Well, now Trump is showing you, if you pay attention to what he's doing and you listen to the people he's interacting with, they all tell the same story. If you can't enjoy the fruits of your nation's resources, then you're not a nation. You're a colony. Regardless if that's done at the point of a gun, regardless if that's done by installing the governorship to your country, as Britain did for how long? They did it to us too. But the worst thing about all of this is that America was caught up in this game. We went along with that. Our politicians went along with that. This globalization, this one world order, all based on the British and the Western European monarchs' idea of how the world should bow to them. And that's exactly what we've been enduring for 75 years since the end of World War II. So let's go further. So now you understand, hopefully, why Australia and the United States are going to sign a deal that builds a refinement plant so that they could take their ore out of the ground, refine it, and produce product to sell to the open fucking market, which only makes sense, right? And isn't it shocking to understand that that's exactly not what's been happening? And that's exactly what they've been doing to the United States since the end of World War II through this slow deindustrialization. Right? You don't make cars here no more like you used to. You can go on a whole list of things where our factories and industries have left. We don't refine. We don't have a refinement plant for these rare earths. We have to build one. We literally don't have one. We depend on other nations to refine the ore. That's why there isn't that many rare earth mines in the United States, but that's changed. Now there is going to be. There is. I suggest you invest in the fucking rare earth projects that are popping up. Go for it. Anything. They're putting, here's something else Americans don't know. You know, we keep talking about exporting oil. And what a lot of us didn't know is that the oil we export can't be refined here. Haha. What? Yeah. Our refinement plants, the capacity for us to refine millions of barrels of oil is the heavy crude oil. That's what we're designed to refine. What we export is called light sweet crude oil, okay? And it's that light sweet oil that we don't have refineries for until now. Now, the oil that we export to the open market, the light sweet crude, can be refined on the fucking land of the United States of America for the first time. The first time. So you know, realize what people are not, and Trump isn't going to come out and give you this big story like I'm giving it to you. When people say, are you doing this to combat drugs? Yeah, that's what we're doing. Are you doing this for oil? Yeah, we're doing it for that too. Are you doing this for a regime change? No. And there's the proof is in the pudding. Did he kick out the regime in Greenland? Nope. He threatened to. Did he kick out the regime in Panama? Nope. But he threatened to. Right? Will you take military force off the table? Nope. I won't. Venezuela ripped out the dictator. A dictator, just so you know, that knows exactly how the 2020 election was stolen. A dictator that I'll go to my grave screaming was removed from that nation under his own cooperative knowledge. And that what we saw, okay, was also was part of an agreement to get him out of there, him and his wife. That's probably classified somewhere, and this is my educated guess. I have no evidence to support that. But the way the operation went and the results of the operation before, during, and after, to me, suggests Maduro surrendered. In addition, if you pay attention, did he do a regime change in Venezuela? Nope. The vice president appointed by Maduro was left in place. Why? Because Trump don't give a rat's fuck who runs your country. That's your country, not ours. What we do care about is if you allow your country to be run by terrorists, narco-terrorists, drug terrorists, armed terrorists, haters of the Western world, that we will not tolerate that anymore. There is no place for any nation on earth with that kind of hate and that kind of ability to spread death. There is no place on earth that allows for them people to exist. And that's what Trump is targeting. But in addition to these targeting, these people in these regimes, this weakness by Denmark to control what was happening or help Greenland for all of these years resulted in China placing their military asset disguised as corporations on our shores, on all of our trade routes. And that's just fully, completely unacceptable. Because had there ever came a time for conflict between us and China, China had the upper hand. Now that upper hand is gone. Not only is the upper hand gone, but now they're going to have to come begging to keep access to these routes, because these routes are as important to their exports as they are to our imports. And they're as important to their exports to Europe as they are to Europe's ability to continue to move on by and purchasing and paying for imports. Everybody needs these sea lanes. Everybody needs these choke points. And we had literally surrendered them through passiveness, through ignoring, or through absolute fucking cooperation from some of our government officials with the UN, with all this nonsense of what we've seen for the last 50 or 60 years. And the deindustrialization of America, the de-importance of America, where a regime like Iran, which we'll get into now, can literally spread death across the globe, including South America, including America, including its neighboring nations, including Europe, right? And nobody did anything for 47 years. Trump don't give a red fuck who's the president of Iran. And neither should you. It's none of your business. The Iranians are Iranians, and if they want to have a Martian as their president, that's their business. But if the people that are in control of your nation are spreading death and mayhem and preventing shipping lanes from operating and preventing open trade amongst nations, now you got to go. And if you won't go willingly, then we'll do what we're doing now. We'll just take you the fuck out. We're not going to negotiate with you anymore. We're not going to play fucking patty cake with you anymore. You got to go. Right? And so far, he's destroyed 3 levels of leadership in the Iranian government. And as of this morning, we're being told that the Iranians are literally talking to the Trump administration to end this conflict. And guess what? Trump will be more than happy to end this conflict. He doesn't need anything more than them to comply with 6 conditions, which are the conditions that they've been lying to us about for the last 47 years. If they're willing to surrender the uranium, if they're willing not to enrich uranium, if they're willing not to mass build weapons to spread terror to their proxy groups, Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and others, if their capacity no longer exists to do that, and they focus inward and not outward, then Donald Trump could give a rat's fuck the name of what your leader is or what God he prays to. It's not his business, nor is it America's business to tell any nation how they should run and how should they vote and who they, but it's not our fucking business. The days of regime change to install puppet regimes is over. We aren't playing those European games. We're not going to keep doing that. And that's what makes what Trump has done in his administration on the world scale a game changer. There's no nation that can oppose us. None. And yet we had surrendered territory to these foreign nations that don't like us. The Chinese had our Panama Canal. The Chinese were down there making fentanyl, working with the terrorists, the narco-terrorists to poison our kids. And no president took action against that except Trump. China was setting up, and they signed a deal with Greenland that any mineral that came out of the ground, China was to get a percentage of that. And they would put the equipment there to mine it. No, sorry, that ain't happening now. That's done. Greenland now is going to be under the control. It'll still be a Denmark. It'll still be a colony or part of Denmark. But the absolute say in what happens there is now the United States. For national security reasons, but more importantly, because the globe continues to need those rare earths to continue to make the products that make everyday life livable. Right? I think what we're witnessing here is something that's not being explained by most of the media. They're focusing on how many people got killed. And look at this school was hit. And what they're not showing you is that even the Russian fucking government, Putin, is in full cooperation with Trump on this, regardless of what you hear being said in the media. Trump just took the tariffs, not the tariffs. He just dropped the sanctions on the distribution of Russian oil. He just dropped the sanctions on the distribution of any Iranian oil that's on ships that has not been delivered yet. And he's doing that on nations that people think he's like hates. And he has no hate for these people. He hates what they do. But what he's actually doing is he's restructuring the world into a system of sovereign nations, which was the entire fucking purpose of the United States to even give birth to itself. A sovereign nation, not answerable to any single world government or organization. And he's extremely effective at it. Our military is just so over the top. I mean, imagine all of these nations had all of the air defense and weapon systems from both China and Russia. Both Iran and Venezuela. Iran had a serious, I mean, just imagine that in the first few days, we struck 2,000 targets, and yet there was still more to go. A few days later, you hear 5,000. Then you hear 7,000. You're like, holy shit. How do they have so much stuff? And that's the main reason Trump attacked. Not nuclear weapons. That's a concern. The oil is definitely a concern, but that oil goes to the rest of the world. We don't get any oil from the Middle East. That would be crucial to the Americans. As a matter of fact, once we stand up this light sweet crude processing plant, we don't need oil from nobody. Not only that, we're going to be able to sell to the open market the products you can produce from the light sweet crude. I like them apples, right? Australia, same thing. Iran, same thing. They're going to be able to sell their oil as well as process their oil into finished products that they can then sell on a world stage. The same thing with Venezuela. The same thing with Greenland. I mean, it's quite incredible what this man has actually done. And it's quite incredible that most of us don't really see what the background understanding of why he's doing what he's doing. I mean, people may not agree with it or not, but he's literally freeing the globe from an economic system of enslavement to those people in the Western European powers that have controlled the commerce of the globe and the movement of the ships of the globe for centuries. Even though, and during all of those centuries, we came to be. And whatever scheme or method or way they've done it, they were able to loop us into this, and we did become the world's police. And for some reason, American presidents prior to this one went along with it. I mean, what kind of an idiot gives control of the Panama Canal back to Panama? Because I could be wrong about this, but I don't even think there was a Panama nation until we built the canal there. I mean, it was controlled, I think, by the country to the south. I can't really tell you what it is, but you're going to give control to them, and then they're going to start being the lapdog of the Chinese. Hey, everybody! I appreciate everybody welcoming and saying all the things you say. I am watching the chat. But I think if you take what I'm sharing with you and start to apply that understanding on top of the world map, you'll start to see that what I'm showing you is undeniably accurate. His goal is an American system spread across the world, not based on you having an American-style government, but based on the American principles of free sovereign nations. Now, he ended 7 wars. How did he end 7 wars? He did it the way every president should have done it, through trade. Through trade. We'll give you direct access to the American markets. Don't fight this war. If you fight this war, we'll not only not give you access, but anything that you were selling will no longer cross our shores. And he stopped all of these people from fighting. And now that they know that they could be treated as sovereign nations, they're not going to have wars against each other over stupid shit that really, what else are they going to do when you think about it? Imagine if you've got gold and you got the world's largest reserve of gold in the ground, and you dig it up and put it on a ship and send it to France or Germany or Europe or somewhere in Europe to refine it because, under the deals you made with the European Empire, you couldn't fucking refine your gold and make gold chains and gold crosses and gold rings. You weren't allowed to do that. You could just send me the ore. Now look what's happening in Africa. That's the target, folks. The target is to stop this one world order, to stop this globalization, and to give every nation its chance to be free amongst itself, amongst its neighbors, and to work on the basis of trade and what's best for all of us, not just fucking Europe and the Western powers, which includes us. Let's not be fucking shy here. I mean, America's is every bit as guilty of the system that's out there as the Europeans are, because we played that game in a big way. And now you finally have a president standing up and saying, no. And he can't really come out and tell you what I'm telling you, because I don't think most people would understand it. But let me just reinforce how what I'm telling you is fairly true, isn't that? Who were the first people to reject the Iran war? Was it Russia or China? No, they abstained. No, it wasn't. It was the Europeans. Why? Why did France and Germany and Italy and England, why do they all not want to help? Why did Trump keep it a secret from them? Why? Because he didn't want them to warn the Iranians. That would be my honest fucking analysis of it. Why were they so against Trump doing this? Because it removes their power over their global hegemony that they've been operating for hundreds of years. You think they just, when they left India and India got its independence, and even America, do you think they left us fully independent? Yeah, they did. And then when the war came, it was even worse. But what have they done since World War II with this fucking idea of unbridled immigration from people that are never going to be a part of your culture? That's one. The other thing they did was the deindustrialization, thinking that if you could get third world countries to build stuff, they would come up to the first world. But that was never really the way it worked out. That was never the plan. That's like saying abortion is health care. I mean, abortion was created to target the blacks in the Americas, period. End of story. Margaret Sanger totally openly admits it. That's what it was for, to call the black people. And the same thing with globalization. They were culling the American fucking ideals. They were culling and pulling down and breaking down our system of life. And they've done the same thing to their own citizens. And people ask, well, why would they do that? Because you're not understanding that the hegemony of the elite people that are in families that stretch back hundreds, if not thousands of generations, that have been in control of this stuff, either through the force of a wooden ship with troops, is conquering South America, conquering Africa, conquering India, go. That hegemony is not dead, folks. It exists, but it operates in a more modern, less gun-heavy way. They're not going to go and invade your country. They're going to inspire the country next to you to invade you. And you're going to be more and more dependent upon this system of, you can't refine, you could ship. You could give me your oil. I don't know if a lot of people realize a lot of the Middle Eastern oil wells and a lot of countries that have oil, they were selling their oil to the Western powers at a per barrel price at I forget what, there's a term for that. So we would put in the infrastructure, we would get the oil up out of the ground, we would sell the oil, and we would give you a royalty for that oil. In some cases, it might have been 20 cents a barrel or $2 a barrel. That's what you get. Saudi Arabia was part of that for a long time. That's why they stood up OPEC. Go back and try to understand why they created OPEC. The other thing Trump is doing, and this is an interesting thing, and I've said it for forever, that being the world's currency is probably the most potent and the best position to be in as Americans. And we just don't understand it. We don't really give it any second thought. But it's probably the most significant position any nation has ever had at any time in world history. And that's the other thing Trump is ensuring. He's ensuring that, well, you know, as everybody screams, oh, the gold standard should be brought back. Well, listen, they may have ended the gold standard, but they replaced it with oil. Oil is the new gold, and it has been since they got off the gold. Everybody thinking you need a commodity to support your, well, we have one of the biggest oil reserves in the world, natural gas reserves. That's what backs your money, not gold. And so it's a change of commodities. Really, the same system is there. It just isn't gold. There just isn't enough gold on the planet to sustain $100 trillion, $200 trillion worth of commerce. There's not. Gold would have to be $1 million an ounce for the gold to be able to back the amount of currency transactions now and going forward. But what is there enough of to back that particular those currency exchanges and movement of money all over the globe? Oil. Therefore, Iran is also going to have to agree, as Venezuela has agreed, that their shipments and sales of their oil on the open market means that their product their sale has to be converted to American dollars. And he's standing that back up in full force again. Because that's what these countries were avoiding. Like if you heard from the Iran war, the Iranians are like, any oil ship going to China, as long as they pay us in Chinese currency, can pass. They're trying to break the strength of the petrodollar. And I'm telling you, as Americans, you don't want that to happen. Okay? I think what you're seeing now is something different that you've seen for the last 50 years of all of these world conflicts. And whether it's a local conflict in Afghanistan or a local one in Iraq and Kuwait, what you're seeing happen now is completely 180 degrees different. Its goals are even bigger than the goals of the previous times that these idiot presidents got us involved in conflicts. And I think the particular analysis I'm giving you, when you look at the and people are free to call in or you can come in here through stream there. I think that when you look at the world map and you look at the positioning that Trump has put the United States in, I think you'll agree that this is so much more than just oil, and so much more that ties it to national defense, and it ties us to a new freedom from the economic fucking hellhole that we were trapped into, that's controlled by the Europeans, our so-called allies, okay, that would rather start a war with Russia than do anything that would interrupt their stream of cash. And here's something too. Well, I think a lot of Americans are just blind to. When you look and see where all of the drug cartel and all of this illegal oil and all of this other stuff was being, that money was being laundered, you look right to the city of London, right to the heart of the British Empire. Their economic framework was dependent upon all of these criminal cartels turning their product into a currency they could spend on the open market. Hi, Tina. And that is over. That's no longer going to... The Canary Islands, with you go to some of these places where you do all this offshore banking, it was working with Switzerland, but it was also working with France, also working with England, mainly through the banks of London. All of that stuff is now over. All of these ships that were out in the ocean, these ghost ships selling oil, you're going to have to eventually convert your money to dollars. And that was being done through the Europeans. That's over. I have papers that show my grandfather lost her natural citizenship by marrying my grandfather. Yeah, I don't know. That's strange. I don't know about that, Miss Poole. But all the preceding generations of the family have been born here, right? That would make you all legal immigrants, and I might have to turn your ass in. They want you to complain that we are being unfair by making immigrants become citizens. Your grandfather came over legally. That shouldn't be a very big issue to overcome if he came through here legally. But if you just break through our border and become an illegal occupant of our nation, you got to go. You got to get the fuck out of here. And people that think that that's unhumane, well, how many trillions of dollars are you willing to put in those people's pockets to be a humanitarian? How many hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year have to be spent for you to feel like you're a humanitarian? That's not just your money. That's all our money. I'd rather that money go to all our people. I'd rather my taxes be cut. I'd rather I have more money to spend on my family and on the things that make my life a little more endurable. And if you want to call that selfish, call it whatever the fuck you want, but that's just common sense. And if your family came over and whatever, I don't know what happened with your grandmother or grandfather. I don't know how. Yeah, she could have. If he never became a citizen and she married him, she would be then classified as whatever country he came from. Russia? I don't know where he came from. Right? So I don't know how you clarify that. Going back that far in time, I'm surprised she had to deal with that, but it's the right thing to do. And you say she got it back. Yeah, perfect. She showed no allegiance to Russia. She showed her allegiance, and all of you have, to the United States. So yeah, I'm glad you got it back. But I think people are missing, and that's why I did the stream. They're missing the very big picture, and the entire world is shifting in big ways. And it's being shifted in the places it needs to be shifted. And that's in the political power and influence around the globe. Okay? And so it's just funny how unnoticed that is. And the best thing is if once you notice it, or once you start looking to see that in what's going on, and you realize that this guy is not a dictator, this guy is not telling you who can run your country. He's just telling you what the United States of America will no longer tolerate. Therefore, if you're going to have a narco-terrorist as a president, whether he was duly elected or not, and he's filling boats of cocaine and drugs to ship to the United States, well, that guy's going to be in some serious fucking trouble. Don't hang out with him. Don't go get coffee with that guy, because that guy will be taken down. You put someone in there, we don't care who you pray to, who you love and don't love. You can hate America all you want. But if you put in the physical effort to attack America or disrupt America, then you're in serious fucking trouble, as it should be. Now, Venezuela, you got all these new oil companies coming back over there, American companies. And when you have a president like this that does see freedom as an important necessity for all nations and is willing to put the work in and define and decide and then design a strategy to give these nations this chance to open our markets to nations that had to go through Europe to get their minerals into our market. And not the refinement of the minerals, not the end product of the minerals, but just to get their minerals to be sold, was controlled by the Western powers. Him breaking that chain, him giving these people the ability to refine and produce and manufacture of their own, is a huge boon to these countries that we call third world. It's taken the boot off their neck and given them the opportunity to produce a product from their own resources and profit from that product as they should. Whatever form that product can take, they absolutely have the undeniable right to make that product into whatever it can possibly be. And gold is a great example. When you want gold for circuit boards or computer chips, or why shouldn't they be able to make the computer board and the computer chip? They have the gold. What the fuck? And this is the point that Trump, I'm surprised he doesn't talk about this more. I'm surprised people haven't looked at how was he able to get peace deals. He didn't ship billions of dollars or give these countries hundreds of billions of dollars for free to not go to war. He didn't do anything any previous president has ever done, yet these people they stopped their war. The question has to be, well, how did he do it? And as I've explained throughout this short video or live stream or wherever the hell it is, that's how he's done it. No, that's not true. Listen, the people of the nation don't understand the agreements that the government makes with foreign nations. So you got leaders that are under this thumb from the hegemony of the Western powers and doing what's been being done for hundreds of years. This just start 10 days ago. This has been like this forever. And finally, you have an American president that says, no, we're not going to play ball with people like this anymore. That guy has the gold. Let that guy make the gold change. Let him build a fucking refining plant to take all of that ore and sort all the gold out of all that fucking dirt. Why should he load all that dirt and gold on a ship and send it to fucking France? No, what your president's doing, I think, is something, whether you hate the guy, you like the guy, or love the guy, what he's doing is absolutely dynamic to changing the way the world will interact with each other. That's just mind-boggling. And the idea that, like, look at Europe, you like 50 million is Muslims. It's kind of shocking that this doesn't get put out in the news more often, but they don't want you to see this because they're part of the global hegemony. But the Muslims have never conquered. Over the last few centuries, Muslims don't conquer territory by gun. They conquer territory by immigration. That's how the Muslims spread out. They don't spread out at the barrel of a gun. They spread out through pure immigration until they get enough people in a certain area to then take a 51% fucking ratio of themselves over the indigenous people. That's how it spreads. They don't spread themselves because they came over to fucking whatever country they're in control of and bombed them and took it. No, it's immigration. Now, knowing that, look what's happened to the Americas, us, with immigration, and look what's happening to Europe. immigration. Unfettered immigration, to which you induce people to come here, which was being done. They were induced to come here and change the culture and the nature of the United States forever if that wasn't stopped and if these people aren't removed. I think, to be very honest with you, even if I got to pay $4 for a gallon of gas, which I hate, this stuff is going to take time. And I wish there was a mechanism to which the administration could make even more clear the talking points that I've derived from just watching it. So I hope this helps people look at this conflict in Iran, which so you know, he's been very, we've been very meticulous about what we're attacking there, not the citizens. We're not bombing their cities, even though we know the military hides their shit under schools and under churches and under hospitals. We're doing our best not to take those institutions out to get to their weapons. We're doing everything we can to prevent them from spreading their hate and violence across the Middle East and across the globe by taking out all that we can take out and leaving them in a situation where they cannot generate any income from any of their illegal oil sales or legal oil sales. We did the same thing to Venezuela. I wish I had that clip. I got to get better at cutting clips and putting them up here on the stream. But that discussion he had with the Australian Premier of Australia, what a lot of people don't know is in 1975, okay, Australia came up with this concept, and the premier they elected was going to produce factories and refining factories to make use of their minerals themselves. And the English crown ejected that prime minister because apparently under the Constitution of Australia, they have that right. And they ejected this guy in 1975 and replaced him to keep things as they were. And so this guy in Australia now, this leader of Australia, that when he met with Trump, is talking about a joint partnership between the U.S. and Australia to build refineries there. That's a massive deal. And the fact that the United States is in partnership now with Australia, pretty much is telling the British Crown, yeah, come down here and fuck with them now, like you did in 1975, because that shit ain't going to play on this new game board. The game board that's being put up now that you're going to have to follow the rules for our sovereign nations interacting with other sovereign nations. Not nations on a fucking map that have a name that can't turn their fucking lithium into batteries. No. Just another thing Trump did. When a lot of people don't realize the Strait of Hormuz was closed not because of the war. It was closed because the insurers in London, Lloyd's of London and other European insurance companies on these ships canceled their insurance. And let me tell you what you probably don't realize, and you don't know, there's no reason for you to know because you're not involved in this global political understanding, is that no port of call, no port on earth will let your ship enter without insurance. What do you think? Imagine that. What did Lloyd's of London do when they canceled their insurance because of the conflict in Iran? They prevented any of those ships from leaving that area because they had nowhere to go. They couldn't even go back to the fucking port they came from. And what did Trump do? He instructed the United States government to put war insurance in place for these ships that it no longer have insurance. And he took a big chunk out of the monarchy and the control of the Europeans over world trade by putting insurance from America in place. Did ships go through? Yeah, some ships have been hit. But as of this morning, we're being told by Trump that the Iranian government, to some extent, whatever level of government that may be, is willing to comply with these demands, is willing to have discussions to end this war. And good news, Trump said that he's going to put a 5-day pause on this conflict. So, like I said with Maduro, I don't think Maduro was caught unawares. I think Maduro was part of the planning to get him the hell out of there. Here's another point of Maduro. His removal. Here's the fact that no more ghost ships can deliver oil. Guess what? Cuba's now in contact and talks with the United States government. Yeah, you know, what amazes me most is that a lot of us don't realize that all of our global conflicts and all of our global arguments are being solved. But in one case, like in Iran, they have to be physically eliminated, and so does the hardware that gave them the ability to export terror. And Greenland didn't require that. They acquiesced to our demands that all the ore there can be pulled out and processed by the United States, that any military installation we deem necessary can be placed there, including the Golden Shield. So that problem is solved. Panama Canal, no war, no bullet, not anything. The Panamanians kicked the fucking Chinese out. What else? Venezuela, same thing. Now you see Iran, same thing. And he would rather not use a gun. He'd rather not have to attack you. The Iranians could have saved themselves an awful lot of headaches if the government just, well, I don't think you were going to get people like that to be rational anyways. When you're a devout Islamist, all you have is deceit and hate, and you're not going to be, I mean, look, we got 47 years of proof that that's an accurate statement. The hate that they have for anybody not Islamist it's ingrained in these folks. And it's okay to be an Islamist. In all fairness, I mean, to be honest with you, Trump don't give a fuck. But if you're Islamists and your hate for others means you're going to go out and start killing people at random, or getting others to support others and provide weapons for them to do the killing, well, that's just not acceptable. That's not how nations should interact with nations. But you could be a nation of hate. Just don't try to export that hate or act on your hate. Because once you start doing that, you're going to get the fucking hammer. A philosophy that the United States should have had for the last 47 fucking years plus. Let's go back to World War II at the end of 1945. That should have been our opinion. There's some who just don't like the pedo cannabis. Yeah, and that's, some of these local issues are not going to be solvable by Trump because he's one man. And you got a bureaucracy, you got 2 million government employees. And you got a bureaucracy that's just not showing you the information. They don't want to get rid of the chaos in the government. And I don't know how effective he's going to be. I personally am not happy with Pam Bondi. I'm not happy with Kash Patel. I wasn't happy with Dan Bongino. I think all of those appointments were a waste of 14 months. However long Trump has been there. So we'll call it 14 months. I think he needs to get rid of them people. He needs to hire people from the middle of the country, from people that have never worked in D.C. Needs to get these connected people out of there, whether they're Republican or Democrat. I don't even care if he had a Democratic Department of Justice DOJ guy or leader, whatever she is. I forget what you call her. The Attorney General. I wouldn't care what political party he was from, but that he was there focused on getting rid of the corruption and the crime that's occurred in our government, how our government's been weaponized against not just people, but everything, corporations, individuals, someone who cares and someone who's there to follow the law as written and not have any personal opinion about who that law points at. If you broke it, you broke it. You should have the same consequences as any single human being that lives within and under the laws and jurisdiction of the United States. Yeah, you're right. Get these people out. I don't even know about that other Democratic woman there. I forget her name there. Tulsi Gabbard. Get her out too. You need to bring in new blood. People that are highly skilled and competent. People that might have been district attorneys and attorney generals of this state or another state. Bring them people in. You want the FBI to run more effectively? Bring in them sheriffs that are telling people, do us a favor and shoot the intruder before we get there to save us all the money of having to track him down and shoot him ourselves. Spend 58 cents on a bullet and put an end to that shit, right? You need people like that to get inside the federal government. And they have to be honest purveyors of fact. That's it. I don't know. And Trump can enforce that on a global. And I want people to realize that what your president is doing is, in fact, that globally. Right. And I don't know if anybody, if you're not ultimately impressed with a nation that had probably more air defenses than any nation per capita in the world, or per population. They had so much hardware to prevent anybody from coming over their airspace, to prevent anybody from attacking them. And the only airplane we lost was through fucking friendly fire of our own. I mean, you just got to ask yourself, how in the fuck are we so capable? It's like we're the aliens. We're the aliens from outer space. And we just fucking flock, boom, bang, bang, boom. And that, what? And they're looking around for someone to shoot at. We ain't even there. Where'd that fucking bomb come from? Well, it could have been dropped 128 miles off your fucking coast and glided in. What do you mean glided in? Yeah. Yeah, they got these glide bombs. They got these bombs and that bomb. What in the fuck is going on? Yeah, there needs to be public commissions possibly connected to some of these things. Yeah, and Americans, look, we could do a lot on our own too. I've said that a lot of times. The corporatization of this nation is sick. It's sick. And none of these people, you know, what do I got? 20 viewers in here? I try to give people as the most fairest analysis I can. And I did that all through the Koberger case, which I can't be a part of anymore unless the guy files an appeal. I just really don't care about the minute details of what these people did wrong, intentional or unintentionally. I just can't. I can't have any interest in that. To me, the kid pled guilty, and that ends it. Whether I agree with it or not isn't even relevant. That case is over until and unless he appeals. Then it's worth looking at again. But these last many months, I've peeked in on a lot of the streamers there, and I'm not. Look, everybody wants to make a dollar doing something, and I don't begrudge anybody that. And there's an audience for it. Obviously, a lot of you have an interest in it, and that's fantastic. I just think it's wasted brainwaves. If the kid doesn't take action to defend himself, then what do I give a fuck what the cops did? I said in the very beginning, the only reason I got into true crime is because that probable cause affidavit was the most jerk-off thing I'd ever read. Not a single thing in the affidavit would make a reasonable person believe that kid was at that house. Just isn't there. And verifiably true in that for the 2 hours before and after the crime, right? They don't know where he was. Well, then what do you mean you don't know where he was? Well, his phone went offline. Well, okay, then what the fuck? Then how do you get me to believe that he was there? Oh, we got pictures of a car that's so blurry that only God himself can't even tell you what it is. Oh, yeah, that's fantastic, right? So, yeah, I don't know. There's everything that's being discussed, I think, pretty much. If there's anything I'm happy about, is that there were 3 samples on the knife. His DNA, blood on the sheath, and blood on the inside of the loop, which I brought to the community years ago and was called a liar and blah, blah, blah. And now we know that that's absolutely true. That if I want to tickle my own balls, it would be that when I brought that forward to the community, that I read that from documents from the from releases or hearings or whatever they were coming from. And sadly, I lost the document. Dago's got it somewhere. But anyway, to me, that whole thing is like, I don't know, corruption personified, chaos personified, ignorance of our ability for fucking employ people that know what the fuck they're doing with this extraordinary technology we have. The ignorance. I don't know how you answer the question. How is it that you could do a genealogy report on a skin cell? And I listen, I don't even know why, but I checked the other day. And my understanding is you lose 5 billion skin cells a day. That's 57,000 skin cells a second. A second. Now, let me make this even more fucking obviously disgusting, right? You found, you go out to eat at a restaurant. You're eating someone's skin cells. Guarantee it. Guarantee it. You make your own food. You're eating your own skin cells. Guarantee it. You're losing microscopic skin cells like fucking pig pen times 10. And you can't see it because they're microscopic. Your skin gets replaced every 10 days. And you found 1 skin cell or 2 skin cells and identified Koberger, yet you had blood on a railing, blood on a glove, blood up my fucking ass, and you couldn't identify any of that? Yeah, okay. Let's fucking shoot this kid dead, right? Let's just shoot this kid dead because, the transfer DNA is all it takes to fucking convict somebody. But the kid short-circuited. Is it now? Let me just to those of you that are still interested in the case, let me just make a point that may make you reconsider your interest. If what you've observed over all these many months confirms reasonably in your mind that this kid couldn't have done it, you then have to ask the question, with the data you have, and he has more than you, what in the fuck did he plead guilty for? That's the reason I have no interest in it. Because any reasonable person that looks at that case, let's just take all the names out of the documents. Let's take the Idaho 4 away from everything and just review the evidence that's been released to the public and understand that the accused in that case had even more access and more information than you're getting. But just with what you've seen, you could reasonably agree that there should have been no conviction at trial, that this person would win at trial. And yet the person that has even more proof of his innocence or more reasonable doubt to his innocence pled guilty. No, I would never have pled guilty. No, there's no way that case that they present would ever have any fucking weight with a jury. There's too much chaos, too many problems. The simple fact that you didn't DNA sample and chase to the end of the earth actual blood samples appears to be motivated by secrecy and lies and deceit. I mean, you could destroy this in court. You could literally destroy this case in a court of law. And you're open to an appeal. Okay? You're open to an appeal. Even if you lose in the first trial, you're still open to an appeal. Just look at how they handled the DNA and the fucking conclusions they made on DNA and the conclusions they refused to make and the paths they refused to follow. Provides reasonable doubt. And let's be clear, they're not accusing Brian Kohlberger of anything other than the killings, when in fact Brian Kohlberger could have dropped these people off that did the killings. That makes him an accessory to the crime, but not the actual death sentence wielder of the knife. You could have got rid of that. There were so many ways to beat this case, folks, and yet Brian Kohlberger chose to plead guilty. And a lot of you stand on this ground where you want to avoid the death penalty. I'm sorry. No matter what, I don't see any reasonable person with this case litigated properly. I don't see any reasonable person securing his guilt. I just don't. You'd end up with a hung jury, guarantee it. There's just too much wrong with the case. There's too much guessing. There's too much take my word for it. And in America, take my word for it is like wipe my ass with your fucking hand. No, I ain't doing that. You're not putting my hand on your fucking hole. Sorry. And that's exactly what I suspect the jury would have done in this case. If they didn't outright get rid of him, they would have hung. They would have hung every fucking time you went to trial. And there'd come a point in time where you couldn't bring him back to trial again. This guy had no reason to plead guilty other than his own motives that we'll never know. But I completely disagree with those that think he did it to avoid the death penalty. I think that's lazy thinking and a lazy explanation to justify your interest. And there's nothing wrong with being interested in that case. I, for my own reasons, have no interest in it because of his actions. That doesn't mean I think he did it. It doesn't mean I think he didn't do it. But what I did know from my observation when being involved in the discussion of this kid's case, my observations told me that his involvement could not be based on the accusations that they were bringing to trial. The evidence that they were going to supply did not support Brian Kohlberger did this. It provided as much reasonable doubt as you could. Okay? He should not have pled guilty if he didn't have anything to do with this crime. And if he did have something to do with the crime, in either case, he should not have taken a plea deal, even if he did commit the crime, because there's so much reasonable doubt here that it's like, what the fuck? Talk to you there, Heidi. Get your hair done. Get your nails done, too. Yeah, I just so that's kind of why I stepped away from the Koberger stuff. Myself, you guys know, I've been in trouble. I've been in front of judges and I've been in jail, and I'm telling you, it's all this hype and hoopla, all of this contamination of the case. They disparaged this kid from the very instant they started this, and that should be your first clue that the people in charge are dishonest. They're not purveyors of the truth. They're not seekers of the truth. And they focused on him, and once they did, they couldn't let go. But that doesn't mean that the person accused should surrender and quit and give these people what they ignorantly are trying for. Because again, had he actually committed the crime, and there's so much reasonable doubt that you have to do mental jumping jacks to accept that conclusion. The fact that the crime scene was just only bloody in the areas of the crime, that there was footprints in the blood in one of the rooms upstairs, that all of these things, folks, that looks like a cleanup, that there was an 8-hour delay. The amount of reasonable doubt that could be positioned against this case was just staggering. You got a blurry photo of a vehicle, you fuck. What, that by itself is reasonable doubt. All right. And so, but listen, folks, it was like that the whole time. And there's nothing I'm saying. Like I said, I've listened to a lot of these streamers. I don't have any opinion as to whether they want to continue the topic or not. If the audience wants it, then give the audience what they'll ask for. I'm not here for money. Never would be, never want to be. I like to share what I can observe. And then what I observe, show you why I come to that conclusion. Like I kind of did with this particular thing. There's nothing I shared. Yeah, I don't play fancy videos and I don't have all these different pictures and tweets and things to show because I don't feel I need to. They're all out there for you to observe. Most of what I share with you, you may have come across. So when you look at the beginning of the stream and I'm talking about Greenland, I'm talking about Panama, I'm talking about Venezuela, I'm talking about Australia, I'm talking about Iran, I'm talking about the 3 choke points of the world's trade that are now have our aircraft carrier groups sitting in them. All of this stuff is obvious, easy for you to see, and it's not. I don't find a need. Like I'm saying, if I was generating an income off of this stuff, if that was my goal, then I would have a much more fancy platform, and I would have assistance to do it. And I just don't really want to put that time and effort and money into it. But I do think that some of the observations, I don't think anything through the Koberger case. There's nothing that I put forward that was for self-grandization or for self-promotion or for anything nefarious. I called the shots as I saw them, and when they released evidence, their conclusion of the evidence was never beyond a reasonable doubt. The media participation in this and the media destroying this guy's character, which is I think may play a role into why he was so afraid to go to trial. But what happens inside of a trial court is not what happens in the public. The whole public can think you're guilty. Look at the Karen Reed case. Yeah, there were a lot of people that thought she was innocent, but there were many, many more that you didn't get to hear from. I mean, for her, fortunately, she had enough people on social media batting for her, right? Where, and then a guy got arrested, the Turtle Boy, all kinds of chaos and shit around that case. Then when you see the outcome of it, you see the way they handled the evidence and how they treated the accused, and any reasonable person would have found her not guilty. And so, does that mean she didn't do it? No, I don't know who killed that guy. I would hope the people that were in that home that were fellow police officers didn't do it, but it's possible, right? Thank you there, Yvonne. Yeah, when you start to stack data that's being given to you in a row and see if it connects in any way, does Greenland connect to Iran? It certainly the fuck does. Does Greenland connect to the Australian discussion? Yeah. Does Venezuela connect to Cuba and connect to Iran? Yeah. Does it all connect to China and Europe? Yeah. I mean, this just so you know, folks, is probably the most nonviolent world war you'll ever witness in your life, and I suspect history will call it that. We may all be gone, but rest assured, future history books that discuss this guy's second term are going to say Trump waged a world war against all nations and won. And who did he win it for? All those nations that were subjugated by these nations he pointed the fucking barrel at. The Europeans, even our own government, the Chinese, the Russians, subjugating all these third world countries. I mean, how is it possible that after the end of World War II that these third world countries didn't move to be first world? How the fuck is that possible? And for people out there that say, well, it's because they're black, you're just about the most ignorant piece of shit the earth has ever produced, because color has nothing to do with nothing. You become a product of your fucking surroundings. Period. End of story. If your family gives birth to you in a village surrounded by fucking sand, well, that's the opportunity you got. Sand. Don't matter what the fuck color you are, right? Yeah. Yeah, I could be a rotten bastard. Because common sense isn't common. Everybody thinks I think out of the box. Ain't nobody in the world can think out of the box. Not anybody. Few people have, but you know who they were. Christ, Gandhi, Einstein. They thought out of the box. We aren't capable of that. 99.999% of us can't think outside of the box, because the only information you could draw conclusions from reside within that fucking box. To step outside of the box is so hard that only a few people in human history have been able to do it. So all that, I don't listen to the media. I listen to alternative media. But the alternative media's topics are driven by the mainstream media. So you're not really listening to something different. You're still stuck in the same box. Go watch any of these guys. Anybody that you think is somebody that's not the media, go listen to them. Why are their topics always the same topics the mainstream media puts forward? I don't know. Same shit, different name. Same shit, different twist. Right? It's kind of fucking sad. No, you're true about that. They're not 200,000 years behind blacks. That's just a filthy thing to say, bro. No, that's not true. You know, open heart surgery was pioneered by a black American. Ooh, really? Yeah. Many things. The computerization of the battleship, the first computer on a battleship's targeting computers was done, I think, by a black woman. No, you're right. No, I think for you to just take a whole class of people and consider them a problem, it just makes you a fucking idiot, right? That just makes you an idiot. There's something wrong with you. All people, once given freedom, once an opportunity is presented to them, a real opportunity, I don't give a fuck where you were born or what color you are or what God you pray to. If your incentive is to follow opportunity, then you're going to come out on top just like anybody else, regardless of any of these social fucking idioms that keep us divided. I think if you haven't lived long enough to understand that the social idioms that divide us are why people don't advance, are why people have these attitudes, then there's something wrong with you. I just find it disgusting. I can't even imagine. I don't care if people blame the Jews. Trump's doing this because of Israel. Israel was the only country that was willing to go along with what Trump is trying to do. But people that don't like Jews could never fucking understand that statement because you're so caught up in that nonsense. You're so caught up in this nonsense of identities and the definitions that were given to you. You don't have any personal experience. I've had a lot of personal experience with black professionals, a lot. And they don't lack in any way. They just don't. I mean, let me show you how criminal, how ignorant fucking blacks are. Jake from State Farm. Boy, what a terrible motherfucker he is because he's black. I think Jake from State Farm is a simple example of a guy that took advantage of the fucking system that was in front of him. And he did what he had to do what he does. And he's very good at it. I don't know anybody that doesn't trust Jake from State Farm. Jake from State Farm would be a wonderful addition to your fucking birthday party for your kid. For a beer during a ball game. But, he's black, so he's got to be a piece of shit because, people in Africa that have been strangled by the Western fucking European powers in the United States as their fucking proxy server, they're all no good because, Same thing in South America. They're all no good because, their color. Fucking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous how people they boil it down to the simple, most ignorant fucking thing. You want to think out of the box, start changing the way you think about people's denominations and religion. That'd be thinking out of the box in today's world. So I do correct myself. You can think out of the box on social topics instantly. I'm also not one that's against transgenders. I'm against transgenders that participate in girls' sports. I don't think girls deserve that. It's like punishment. But if you want to cut your dick off and be a girl, and science is there to allow you to do it, you have at it, brother. Pay for it yourself. Be what you want to be. Be all that you can be. All right? Don't force it on others, just like I don't want a Jehovah's Witness forcing his religion on me. I don't want people's ideals of whatever they're doing with their willy whacker forced on me or my children or my neighbors. But I'm not saying you can't do it. I don't think that's fair. All right? It's like saying you can't get on an airplane. Well, what the fuck? Science invented airplanes. Why can't I go fly? Yeah, I can't relate. Listen, I was full of all these opinions and hate and all those social constructs. And I try to keep myself in check. I just, early on in the Koberger case, everybody was pointing to police corruption. And I'm the first one to jump in line and say that that's a big problem in the United States. But I'm also the first one to jump in line to say, show me proof before I'll just label these people and view them through the lens of being criminal. I want evidence that they're acting criminally. And I think that evidence has been produced, especially in post-Koberger, since he's pled guilty. I think you can look at that evidence and make an honest assessment that there was a lot of sneaky, shady, even illegal things done with that evidence, with that investigation. And I can accept that as somebody saying that now. But in the very beginning and for the first year or so, the evidence, as fucked up as it was, didn't necessarily. I don't accept the fact that it was corruption back through most of this because there was no evidence of corruption. I mean, an idiot could have came to those conclusions, and that could explain everything, right? So could a conspiracy. That could have explained everything that happened there, right? And some conspiracy and some criminality appears to be present within that case. So I can say, yeah, now I can have a perspective because I've seen information that leads you to those conclusions with really no fucking space between them. That's the same way I see race and I see religion. I've been doing a lot of stuff back in politics again, and it's just mind-boggling to me that people don't understand the Western way of controlling the globe was, as I explained to you in this stream. I mean, the reason China is so wealthy in rare earths isn't simply because they have them. It's because they have the refinement capacity for those rare earths. That's why a lot of rare earths are shipped to China and refined, and then China sells them back on the open market to the same fucking idiot that dug it out of the ground. And they make more money, the Chinese do, than the guy that dug it out of the ground. The China's copying the European model of a world hegemony. And that's exactly what Trump has stopped. And in addition to stopping China's world hegemony, he's putting an end to the European hegemony. And he's trying to make the globe a more nation status, individual nation for individual nation. Your wealth should be coveted by you. Not fucking England, not fucking Beijing, not Washington, D.C. We should not be coveting their wealth and then standing back as if we're better than them. And the explanation is, well, they're black. No, they're not black. It's got nothing to do with them being black. There's that one president down there, Burkina something. I forget the name of the country. But this guy's all hell bent for leather on making his country free, building roads, building hospitals, building schools, building farms, getting farm equipment, road equipment, building fucking taking the wealth from his nation and turning that wealth into a nation. All right, bringing the fucking 21st century to the people, and the people having the jobs and trained to build the 21st century in their own nation. Burkina Faso, I think it is. Go look that up and look what that guy's doing. That's an example of what Trump is trying to get the world to do. Whether they don't need a big advertising campaign for it. They need the roads to carry that out. And what I mean by that is they need the capacity or the ability to build their own refinement facilities, to build their own mining equipment. or to buy the equipment and to use it. And that's the road that he's opening up to countries that have never had that open to them. And because that road was never open to them, they were dirt diggers. For hundreds of years, they've been dirt diggers. And they're still going to dig dirt, but they're going to be able to do something with that dirt they've never been able to do because of the Western hegemonies controlling the world trade on the oceans, controlling the world currency through the UN, through the World Bank, through the European banks, through the American institutions. That's all changing. And I'm going to leave you guys with this. This may give people a whole different sense of maybe there really is hope. But the way the United States is going to pay its debt is a twofold system. The first fold is to grow the economy. And I'll give you a simple explanation. You make $500 a week and your bills are $1,400 a month or $1,500 a month. And you only got $500 left to do what you got to do with it, right? Very not happy. However, if you make $1,000 a week and you make now $4,000 a month and your bills are $1,400, that $1,400 is not that much of an issue to deal with. And the additional money that you're keeping in your pocket, that $2,600, can go to pay down that debt of $1,400, or it could be put away in an interest-bearing account, which would then have help offset that particular $1,400. That's number one. And we all see that that's being done. That in real life, that's being done. One of the things he's doing. But the most unique thing that he's doing is with these Bitcoin type things, where you have a U.S. I forget what it was that they put together, but essentially what's going to happen is when people buy these U.S. backed coin, that money is going to be put towards the debt. And thereby the investors will be paying off the United States debt in the Bitcoin. I forget what you call that, cryptocurrency. And that cryptocurrency. And the sales of that cryptocurrency will take and pay off the United States debt. And people say, well, the debt's $39 trillion. How can you imagine? Well, I don't know. Bitcoin went up to how much per coin? Fucking crazy amount of money per coin, right? The value of the coin. And what backs Bitcoin? And the difference between Bitcoin and what he's actually setting up is it's going to be backed by the United States dollar. And the United States dollar is backed by the oil reserves of the earth. And therefore to make it a good investment. So under those two minor principles or those two minor observations, that's what you're seeing him put in place and what you're seeing him do when it comes to dealing with the financial debt of the United States. So, it will increase before it starts to decrease, but I don't suspect that the increase is going to continue for 10 more years. I don't think it'll increase that long. Hopefully by the end of his term, it'll start to turn around. What else? There's so many topics that could be covered. The Supreme Court ruling on tariffs, how tariffs are done. I'm not going to get into that today. But I think the stream has been, what do you call it here? I don't even know. How do I get rid of that guy's statement on screen? Get rid of it. How do I do that? Hide. There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, for those of you that joined, I want to thank you. I don't see any blue wrenches in here. How is that? I wonder why. Yep, Heidi was in here. Or how do you say her name? Heidem. I don't know how to say it. But yeah, almost no blue wrenches. And we were blue wrench heavy at one time. Oh, Miss W was here. Carl Ferguson was here. Yeah, I guess we did in the beginning. We had a bunch of blue wrenches. But I know most of you guys in true crime are anti-politics. However, everything you're talking about in the Koberger case is politics. It's not world politics, but it is local politics. And yeah. Here, let me put this in here for the last time. I don't know why people are so remiss in joining the stage, but you're welcome to come up. Anybody in the chat room? Who else do I got that with? Oh, look at that. I actually got some people over there. I'm going to paste it over there. You're welcome to join that. Burning Cross. Yeah. Man, Burning Cross, you really are anti. You're just a hater of black people, and that's fine. You're allowed to hate, but I gonna have to shut you up. I don't care for that in any of my streams. In any of my personal conversations with friends, I don't tolerate it. If you're that fucking small-minded, then take that small mind away from me. I don't want to be contaminated by it. Somebody said they can't hear. Can I be heard? Are you people hearing me? What does she say? I don't know. Who can't hear? Refresh your screen, I think. Because on my end, everything is showing that it's working. Look at that. This has been an hour and 20 stream. It doesn't feel like 20 minutes. What's going on? And I'm gonna step down here in a minute. I've decided to enter a new what do you call it? I don't even know the word for it. But I no longer adhere to time anymore. I really don't give a fuck if it's 3 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 10 a.m. or 5. I no longer adhere to those hours of life. I do what I want when I want. Don't even care what the clock says. And if I can't do what I want when I want because your clocks will limit the amount of hours your business will be open, well, then I'll just go somewhere else or do something different. I'm trying to break the paradigm of this 24-hour life that we exist in and turn it into a 24 hours of whatever the fuck Sarge wants to do. He's going to do. I did retire in September. I don't know if anyone out here if I told anyone that, but yeah, I retired in September. And I don't plan on going back to work ever again. There's no need. I'm a believer of when enough is enough. That's a question I think we all need to ask ourselves as we move through life. When is enough enough? Do you need 10 million, 1 million, 5 million, 500,000, 250,000? When is enough enough? And I think that's a fair question for people to ask themselves. And that's the basis under which I decided to retire, even though I didn't work much. Anyway, I'm just done with it. I'm just done with work. I'm done with answering the questions and talking to people on the phone and selling jobs. Yeah, enough of that. I gave 30 years of my life, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, 9 months a year. That was enough. Enough for me. I could have stopped 5 years ago, but, I didn't. So I'll probably be back. Anyone have any topic they want to be covered? They can put it in the room. Now, we're not in the end time. The final days, that's something else too. I'm going to end with this. For a lot of people that believe in the book of Revelations or believe that the end times are here or they're encroaching upon us, that truth was there. That was a truth that has just been stopped, whether you like him or not, by Trump. Okay? The three nations that were to lead this revelations were going to be China, Russia, and Iran. Okay? You might want to include North Korea for the fourth horseman. That's no longer obtainable. And so China, all their top military commanders and all their top politicians have been removed by the existing leader out of fear of a coup because of the economic turmoils and the way the American government has done what it's done to put an end to the hegemony of China, okay, without firing a shot at China, okay? So that to any of those that talk about the awakening, I think is going to happen gradually over the next several years. I don't think that a lot of people understand what Trump is doing globally and why he's doing what he's doing. They think it's just oil or narco things, or I don't know. They boil it down to just the Jews. It's the Jews. The Jews are controlling America. And although Jewish control is there, I want to remind anybody with that particular peace of mind that the Jews' power was projected was projected out of Europe, not Israel. Not Israel, not Netanyahu, not Israel. The global hegemony with Jewish involvement gets its power base out of Western Europe and American government following along with it. And what you're seeing happen in Iran is completely contradictory to the hegemony and the European influence across the globe. It's complete opposite of that. It's taking it away from them. And that's why I think you'll see that over time, how much more clear that'll become. So, yeah. Anyway, be good, everybody. Stay out of trouble if you can. But if you can't stay out of trouble, my advice to you is just don't get caught. So, good night. Talk with you. It's a good afternoon, wherever you may be. Be good.